Crale and Cameron Vanenduggen. In the meantime, though, we want to bring you up to speed on a little news that happened earlier today in Trico Trans Am. We still have one race to come for that category this afternoon as a part of things here for the Shannon Speed Series at the Bend Motorsport Park. Let's chat with Nash Morris now, who's in the Super Cheap Auto Racer, and he unfortunately made his way into pit lane before. Nash, just tell us what went wrong. We gather there may have been some issues with the diff, is that right?
Yeah, it started out with a diff issue, and then we're not sure yet if it's progressed to the gearbox issue, but the crew's down there having a look at it now. I'm here talking to you blokes. Yeah, we'll see what the diagnostics is when I go back.
Hey, Nash, Cam Vanenduggen, geez, that was a great race to call from our perspective. I know it didn't finish the way you wanted, but it seemed willing out there, mate, behind the wheel. Did you have much more damage outside of the gearbox as well? I mean, how much was around it? I know you've had a look around the car, but geez, it looked like you were all pinballing there for a while.
Yeah, I made a bit of a wobbler move and fell off the track at turn 5 and did some front splitter damage, so I had no splint fitter most of the race, and I just hung on as best as I could, tried not to let too many people pass me, and unfortunately we didn't make it to the end.
Flash, just talk about the depth of competition in Trans Am this year. It looks blockbuster to us. What's it like behind the wheel?
Oh, it's bloody awesome. You're getting the race dudes that are paid race car drivers, and you get to see how you stack up against them. You've got guys like Todd, Moff, Golding, Slade, all those good dudes there that are professional race car drivers, and young blokes like myself, Hearn, all those other young dudes get to see how we compete against them, so it's pretty cool.
Cool. Now, we know you've got to get ready for one more race this afternoon. Before we let you go, we understand that the Supercars champion in Brody Kostecki may be floating around helping you. Is that true? And have you guys all had a chance to maybe catch Shane Van Gisbergen in action this morning and the win that he enjoyed there at Portland?
Yeah, me and Bush watched the race from our truck, and he's actually currently pulling the diff out of my car right now. So he doesn't mind getting his hands dirty, that bloke. He's that's what he taught me. He's always been a pretty good mentor of mine and always told me to work on my own cars and always know a bit about the stuff like that. So it's a pretty cool dude to learn off.
Great stuff, mate. Thank you very much for talking to us as a part of the coverage today. Go well in the final race this afternoon.
Thanks. I just want to say I miss you guys. It's not as cool not having you here. You're some pretty cool dudes, so I miss seeing you in the coffee line getting your coffees of a morning. So
Legend. Thank you, mate. Thanks for talking to us. There he is, Nash Morris. We're making the best here in the studio and having a bit of fun as well. Why don't we turn our attention now to Monochrome GT4. These things are absolutely sweet. Some highlights for you of the racing action yesterday. An hour of competition, boys, and a bit went on. Off track as well.
Rusty, it was awesome, this series going from strength to strength. Just the third race as a standalone national category, but man, it had it all going on. The Mustang was on the move, but this race was decided in pit lane. Pit strategy had such a big role in how the race played out. George Miedeke strong early, Ryland Gray strong late, but ultimately it was a McLaren that got the checkered flag first. Method Motorsport, ultimately, with the disqualification for the Mustang, didn't just win, didn't just finish second, they also run the Porsche that Shane Smolin drives, the yellow and blue car you can see on the inside of the second row of the grid. So it was a 1-2-3 for that team yesterday. Huge performance by the squad that's headed up in part by Chaz Mostert.
Now, if you have only just joined us this afternoon here on 7+, great to have you with us. We have spoken with George Miedeke in the driver, or one of the drivers of that Mustang to the right of your screen there. Really cool new GT4 spec machine. We're proud to have it in this country. But it was the subject of a disqualification after yesterday's race. Just 2 kilos under the minimum, Krause, and to his credit, he put his hand up at the very commencement of our coverage this morning and basically owned that, didn't he?
He did, in typical honest George fashion. Said, look, this is on us. The whole idea of GT racing with the balance of performance, which is a series of performance adjustments to make sure all of these cars can compete easily and compete competitively with each other, means that they're very strictly enforced. Now, the Mustang's BOP weight is 1,505 kilos. It is the heaviest car on the grid weekend, this weekend. But anything less than that, and you're outside of the regulations. They were 2 kilograms less. And George said this morning that he thought that came down to fuel in the fuel tank and that was it. Now, a litre of fuel in these cars at 15 degrees C is about 700 grams. So there's not an enormous amount in that. Maybe 2-3 litres of fuel could be the difference. But that's the rules. You've got to play by them, and the Medickies know that. The best thing, Cameron van der Dungen, good afternoon to you, is that there's 2 separate qualifying sessions. So they get another shot at this one from the front row of the grid. So, while yesterday was bad and they lost all those points, today they can make amends.
Yeah, and they have a decent stop time as well. There's a mandatory stop time for the drivers today, so looking forward to seeing how this one unfolds. The other big thing that George Miedicke talked about was the advantage that McLaren has over the heavier and probably less handling available to the drivers in the Ford Mustang. So hopefully they can put on a show and take it right to the McLarens today. And I'm looking forward to seeing Josh Bucket back at the wheel again. He worked beautifully in that car. He handed over to Jason Yu, not the experienced driver that we've seen in some of the other cars, so they probably won't figure in the mix for a podium. But I'm just enjoying when Josh Bucket's behind the wheel anyway.
He was hustling that car yesterday and starts from pole position today. As I said, separate qualifying performance, but what a strong job. There's a couple of different contenders to watch in this one. I'm really excited to see what Tim Lay can do today in the M4 GT4. He was pretty good yesterday, top 5 finish. Jake Camilleri came home strong as well. And at the end of yesterday's race was setting lap times just as quick as the race leaders. So watch for the Queenslander. Great field, 17 cars, right down to the little Ginetta G55 GT4 of Scotty Turner and former Bathurst 6-hour winner Rob Rubis, who are making their debut this weekend in the British-built sports car Ford V6 engine out the front of that. Ginetta have been producing racing cars for about 5 decades, and it's great to have them with a presence in Monochrome GT4. Class racing is always rusty in this category, the AM class, the Pro-Am class, and the silver category. So like GT racing all around the world, races within a race in GT4.
That little Ginetta you spoke about actually had a pretty good hit out on Friday too. Was fast on Friday in the damp conditions. And to Cam's point there before, just on Jason Yu, man, maximum pressure scenario for him. Josh handed the car over in great shape, but then to be chased by some experienced runners, big pressure. So lots of stories to tell in this. Watch that BMW that's just come through there as well on the right of your screen. Tim Lay, 50 years young. What can he do in this race? Lubramax Mustang, they'll be putting all the drama of yesterday behind them. We're about to go racing. Hopefully catch up with Chaz Mostert across the course of the weekend too. He's focused on driving the Ferrari in the GT3 race to come, but he's a proud team boss for Method Motorsport as well. And away we go in GT4 on Sunday morning here at the Ben Motorsport Park. Those cool McLaren Achuros in the background there, but it's the Smollen Porsche that's up in a second. Pretty good start from the Mustang though.
Jake Camilleri with the rears locking under brakes into turn 1. There's a little bump in the braking zone there too, so it does unsettle the cars. The McLaren gets down the inside. Tom Heyman, pink and blue car. Great start, Shane Smollen, former one-mate Porsche champ. Switched to a Porsche in endurance racing now in the Cayman 718. He's got up to 2nd place. Now, if you caught yesterday's race on our coverage with Camilleri dropping a couple of wheels off at turn 5, there's a lot of peril involved in that, but kept the steering wheel straight and got it stopped down the hill at turn 6. So the driver that finished yesterday's race starts today, and then they'll swap midway through with that 10-minute pit window in the middle of the race, and then the co-drivers will bring it home. So a strong start from Shane Smollen, but Ryland Gray using the torque and the pure grunt of that Ford Mustang. It might weigh 1,500 kilos, but it's a rocket ship in a straight line, and it puts its power down well.
One of the best friends for Ryland Gray at the moment will be Shane Smollen there in second. If he can hold back Heyman and McLennan and keep the gap there, I think Miedicke might be one of the better of the drivers throughout. Another thing to look on for is Jason Yu in the car number 26 back in 14th. His job is to minimise the damage early and then hand over to Josh Bucket in a good position. A later safety car brings that car into contention.
And probably they'll do the reverse of what they did yesterday in the way they played the game. They ran it long for Josh. They maximised his stint behind the wheel to then minimise the impact for Jason behind the wheel. Expect the very opposite. There's that car you're talking about on screen now. Cool livery or wrap on that car. And yeah, you know, we'll watch for Buchan to try and claw his way through the field in the second half of this race.
Yeah, that car was wrapped on Thursday at the racetrack. It started the practice sessions there plain white, and it's submerged in this very nice orange livery. You could almost call it papaya, I would have thought, the fitting of the McLaren brand. Some good battles a little bit further up as well. Zoe Woods in the Cayman GT4, a little bit further back. Love in the Mercedes AMG, one of 2 cars. The Stubby boys will jump behind the wheel a little bit later on. You go further back and you find Tony Quinn, the familiar Game Over livery on his AMG. But these are the leaders. And this is why we love GT racing, the variety and the ability to run these cars so close, despite the different configurations.
You know the Porsche family pretty well. A bit of chat around that there are more of those GT4 spec machines on the way.
If global shipping wasn't so much of a drama still these days, Rusty, they might already be here. Yeah, a lot of interest in the Porsche land about this particular car. And like the GT3 Cup car you see in Porsche Michelin Sprint Challenge or Carrera Cup, or the GT3R Porsche you'll see in Fanatec GT World Challenge, this is a factory-made race car. You pick up the phone, you call Porsche, hi, I'd like a 718 Cayman GT4 Club Sport, please. Certainly, it'll be delivered to you, and it will rock up. But McLaren do the same, Ford do the same with the Mustang. And Shane's been a long advocate for the Porsche brand. Went away and did some production car racing for a while, won the Battle 6 Hour in a BMW. But when GT4 was announced, he was one of the early converts, and I think what's put him, Rusty, in a really good position for this year is he had all of last season to get up to speed. They ran GT4 cars within the Australian production car field. Yeah. It's now spun off into its own category, and he's got a year under his belt understanding this car. Someone has had a pretty significant drama to the point where a wheel's come off. And that's happened at the top of the hill at turn 5 on the run down into 6.
Is it the 12? The 12's dropped some 7 places. So we're not sure which car it is yet.
It looks like the 12 stopped out on track, Rusty. Down in between turns 9 and 10.
Safety car out, we're hearing.
The leaders have just gone through, so they've called the safety car now.
It's still in the lane, but we're hearing that, there you go, oh wow.
That's more than just a loose wheel. That's had quite a hefty shunt down there at turn 9 and 10. Medical teams and recovery crew already on the scene, which is great. One of the 3 Porsches on the grid this weekend. So the field will be under the control of the safety car. For some teams, there's a little strategic benefit here. You touched on the Jason Yu, Josh Buchan car. He's done a good job, up to 9th place already.
So that's a really interesting spot to have an off.
Well, I wonder if
between 9 and 10.
Has it happened there, or has it happened earlier, and that's where he's parked? Trying to get to the bottom of that.
Vince Gucciardo out of the car. That's great to see. 50 minutes remaining in this race. We're under safety car conditions right now. The damage to the front left. So you think about it, coming out of that final corner, we'll see where the damage is on the car.
Looks from the map like it's 9, but some suggestion it might be around turn 6, Cam. We'll just verify where that camera position is for that car. Tough result. The GB galvanising team, gee, they've been good supporters, haven't they, of motorsport. It'll bunch the field up here with 49 minutes remaining. Good to see that Vince is out of the car and A-OK.
Yeah, that is the run up to 6.
Yeah.
So we're looking back. That's where our track map's telling us the car should be, but the car is actually in the run up to turn 6. So just before the right-hand hairpin.
And Motorsport Australia Race Control have confirmed that with us as well. So the Hyundai i30 safety car will slow the field down. So there'll be a pit stop window that opens 35 minutes into the race to 25 minutes to go in the race. There's that 10-minute window where all these teams will dive in for a mandatory pit stop, which in GT4 racing is 115 seconds. But there is some success penalty from yesterday's race as well. 15 seconds if you win, 10 seconds if you're second, 5 seconds if you're third, and that's just part of the balance of performance we're talking about.
Magpies having a little look there, pick up a souvenir.
Don't touch the rim, it'll be hot.
Gee, that's ended up a long way down the hill, hasn't it? It does. The camera probably flattens out the elevation change on the run down there into turn 6. It is quite a plunge down into that braking zone, so it's downhill and you're trying to slow the car. to a first gear 60 km/h corner.
Good to see the Motorsport Australia officials. The recovery crews have been busy this weekend, haven't they? So a big shout out to all of our volunteer officials. Should be a relatively quick recovery. They're going for a lift tow here. They're in a good extrication point, so I can't imagine we're going to have much, well, it won't be a lengthy delay. Haven't seen impact with the wall or anything else at the moment, but it's mainly concrete up there, so it won't be any wall repairs required. In terms of race advantage, disadvantage, at this point of the race where we were, I don't think this is going to play much of a part in any strategy as such.
I think it does help cars like you touched on earlier, the Jason New, Josh Buchan car, because with all the respect to Jason in the world, he's brand new at this game, so he's still getting up to speed. This probably takes a few laps at racing speed out where he can drop off the back of that leading pack, which will then help when Buchan gets behind the wheel of that car.
Fair point.
How good is that?
He's up in 9th at the moment, and yeah, what a setup.
Barbecue going.
Solar power. Look at that. Look at the chair on the roof.
And with
the windbreak.
They've got a windbreak as well. 10 out of 10 for engineering excellence there.
Okay, we could just have a little mobile commentary booth, can't we? Just go around the country and have park up.
Who would cook the barbecue out of us? That'd be
100% Nolte. There it is on the left. There you go. There's your barbie.
There you go. Hey, back in the day when I was allowed to be trackside before work health safety requirements, I used to cook the barbecue down at Turn 2 at Phillip Island. So I could jump back on the tongs.
Pretty exotic barbecue, knowing your tastes, Cameron.
I'll pass on that, thanks.
No?
Not a lot of faith, to be honest.
You've all gone straight to Nolte and you've forgotten about poor old Cam.
It's got the Billy on the boil there.
Look
That's
at this.
outstanding.
Nice set of rims on the Falcon.
The way you do it in South Australia.
It's the park and view up at the hill. Driver's left on the run up to turn 5 and turn 6. You can see the whole racetrack from up there. Just getting some word through from Motorsport Australia race controller team. Think he's dropped a wheel off the road potentially, which has caused that accident, and that frontal damage matches up with that, because if you drop a wheel off the outside of turn 5, the instant response is to fire the car across to that inside fence. And there's been some big names claimed there over the years at Shell V-Power Motorsport Park. And it's one of those corners, and the guys that built the racetrack said they engineered that corner to be a reverse hayshed. It goes the other way to the famous fearsome hayshed corner at the Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit. They wanted it to be almost flat in some cars and wanted it to be a corner with a little bit of peril in it, a bit of driving challenge, and it's certainly proven that. You can see where the ambulance is parked. That's the international circuit, so when they run the 4.9 kilometre track here, the cars will turn left and then run around, and then further back beyond that is the GT circuit, the 7.7k track that the Asian Le Mans Series ran up very early year 2020.
It's basically a blank canvas when they started here. It was the old Mitsubishi Proving Ground, wasn't it? They've created a precinct, a whole area for motorsport, about an hour and 15 out of Adelaide, and it's terrific.
Well, fun fact, where they were originally going to lay the track out, they'd had it all pegged out in the ground, but then looked across to this venue now, which is further sort of southeast from the original Mitsubishi test track, and they saw the undulation there and went, actually, that's a better place.
Okay.
So they moved the whole thing about a kilometre further down the road.
For motorsport fans that probably go back a little bit longer than the new fans that have been joining the sport in recent years, it's got a little bit of the Oran Park about certain aspects of this track. On those little undulations you're talking about, unsighted corners, off-camber corners. It's a tricky racetrack, and you mentioned the GT track. For those joining the coverage today, we're using the West Circuit, which is a bit more of a bull ring. The GT track is a lot of fun to drive, Richard, but it doesn't always promote great racing and passing opportunities over the back part of the circuit. This is actually throwing up 3 genuine passing opportunities, turn 1, 6, and I would say 11 as well. But we've seen more through 7, 8, 9 than I expected. It's a great little track.
It takes you back to kind of Amaru Park days in some respects. It's a tiny, tight little track. Something different for the offering. We've just come from the Grand Prix track at Phillip Island in the past month to this here, and it's been a good choice. Good choice to try something different as far as the Ben Motorsport Park configurations are concerned. So clock still counting in Monochrome Australia GT4. We understand the safety car may peel in this time by, so we'll keep an eye on whether those lights go out. It gives Jason Yu a bit of a breather as we work toward the mandatory pit stop window, and then Josh Buchan, who's literally just stepped out of the TCR race for Hyundai, will step behind the wheel of the 26.
So the real battles to look out for on the restart. Ryland Gray will want to gap them and keep Shane Smollen between himself and Heyman and McLennan. Heyman and McLennan, well, they're going to be looking to get through and try and keep as close to the back of Ryland Gray as possible. If not, get in front before they get to that compulsory pit stop window. Because the reality is, based on the results yesterday and what Richard went through before on those success penalties that are added to the top three, the podium, it's really going to be advantage of the current race leader on the other side of those compulsory pit stops.
And speaking of those stops, we touched earlier on the pit lane penalty time. They call it the compensation time. I can tell you that Marcus Flack and Tom Heyman have 15 seconds longer than everybody else. Nathan Morecambe and Tom McLennan in the second of those Method Motorsport McLarens, 10 seconds. And Tim Lay of the silver class cars, they're the outright cars, you could say, in the race, have 10 seconds. But the Pro-Am class is Shane Smollen and Lockie Manif running second outright at the moment. They've got 15 seconds. And in the Am category, car number 32, which is the Randall Racing car of Jacob Lawrence and John Bow, also have a 15-second longer pit stop than the 115-second minimum. You will go down a lap in the pit stop sequence in this race. So an ill-timed safety car can be very, very bad if you're in pit lane, because you may not be able to get that lap back when your closest rivals ultimately make their stop. That's all part of the games you need to play in GT racing and in Monochrome GT4 as we get set for a restart. And Ryland Gray has the job to do now to try and build a margin over Shane Smollen before that pit window opens.
High praise for Ryland Gray from his teammate George Minicki this morning, just talking about this young racer and what he's been able to deliver with this team and their hopes of him doing even some work in the United States. So here he comes down into turn one. Smollen tried to stay underneath that rear wing of the Mustang on the restart. Shane's done a good job there to try and minimise that damage.
Good restart, Tom McLennan. The green and yellow and white Method Motorsport McLaren Artura GT4. Tim Lay, the genuine BMW parts, Lay Motor Group entry from Orange in New South Wales, attacking onto the back of those cars as well. So the diversity in GT4 on show. Front engine turbocharged cars, normally aspirated front engine V8, and then the mid-mount Porsche and McLarens, both with different engine configurations, Turbo 4, Turbo V6, all the variety on show in GT4 racing, and all of them running within a couple of tenths of a second of each other. BOP is often a thankless job and a thankless thing in motorsport. Some people I know don't like it, but the results speak for itself when it can engineer all these different types of cars to be so fiercely competitive like this.
I think you and I had a very significant argument on a radio show about BOP at one point, Kralsey, a little while ago, but it's perfect for GT racing.
Context, yeah, but I agree with you. I'm a big fan.
Gray, Smollen, McLennan and Heyman. Remember yesterday, it was the Marcus Flack Heyman car that won the race. And right now, they find themselves in 4th place. Great job by Jason Yu, who's still in the mix here. He's in 8th at the moment, up 8 spots. Josh Buchan will be happy with where the car's positioned.
Mark Griffith up 5 spots in car number 19, just behind, which is good stuff. He ran that car in the Bathurst 12 hour, raced in the Bathurst 6 hour as well, Griffo. I think his transporter, Griffith Corporation Transporter, does more miles than anyone else, because even at race meetings, Griffo is not out. His truck is there carrying somebody else's race car. He's a great supporter of Aussie motorsport and the Daimler Trucks Brisbane Mercedes AMG. Yep.
Behind Jason Yu, and he was, one of the examples that you're talking about of that support, very much involved with the Renee Gracie car and campaign last year, wasn't he? And actively championing, if you like, your involvement in GT3 racing. So back we go. Gray's now 1.1 seconds ahead of Shane Smolin, who's got his mirrors full. Lights are on with those competitors up in front. So Smolin, McLennan, then Tom Heyman, and Tim Lay staying with them in the M4 BMW.
The Shane Smolin Lockie Manif car proving to be the best friend of the Ford Mustang right now. Holding back the others has really brought Tim Lay into contention here.
So Tim's got a pit stop time 10 seconds less than the leading McLaren. The Mustang is in really good shape because while they were disqualified yesterday and they lost all their points, being disqualified means they also don't get that penalty time to their results. So the Ryland Gray George Miedeke Lubrimax Mustang has the standard 115 seconds. So they're instantly 15 seconds further ahead of that yellow and blue Porsche, the McLaren that currently runs in 4th position. So right now, the two cars looking great, the Mustang and the BMW, ironically, when it comes to pit stop time.
Also want to give a shout out to Randall Racing's Jacob Lawrence, the first of our AM class cars at the moment, finished yesterday's race in 9th, currently running up in 6th. I think that's a notable achievement.
Yeah, just got some guy called John Bow to plug into that car for the second half of the race. Don't know a lot about him. I hear he's from Tasmania, but I think he could be good. Could be good. Yeah.
JB, looking forward to seeing him behind the wheel. But I just wanted to make a note of that because an AM class car running top 6 in GT4, great result so far.
And they're the kind of performances you like to highlight. It's a great point.
McLennan shows the nose just briefly in the McLaren.
This is a good drive from Tom McLennan. Struggled at the end of yesterday's race, Rusty, and lost touch with Tommy Heyman, his teammate, at the end of that, who worked his way past and then pulled away. But this has been a really solid performance by the young man who's been racing one-make Porsches and is a pretty sharp young guy at the moment. Works pretty hard on his racing. Another one who contested the Bathurst 6-hour in a production car among his one-make Porsche and GT4 commitments. So he's one of those young drivers, Cam, that they're in a race car as often as they possibly can be. Doesn't matter what it is, they're getting laps, and that's just one of the key things to developing as a young driver.
Enjoying watching the battle of McLaren versus Porsche, because we know just how quick the McLarens are, but they just can't get the clear air. Here's the move, though. Looking up the inside, should be able to get that done. The 24 of McLennan. He's through on Shane Smolin, and it looks like he's got Heyman with him. So all of a sudden, Shane Smolin finds himself going from 2nd to 4th in 2 short corners. And here comes Tim Lay as well. Got a run on him through turn 12. Tucks back in behind the Porsche. And now the McLarens set sail after the Ford Mustang of Ryland Gray.
Unfortunate enough to know and work with Shane for some time as he goes the big send down at turn 1. ABS working hard on the Porsche and heads up driving from Tom Heyman to open the steering. And just letting that Porsche barrel down the inside and then tuck back in because he went very, very deep. I was just about to say, Shane will have been very frustrated that that happened, because while he's technically an AM driver, he loves to race the pros. He loves to get amongst the young guys, and he was doing that and leading them for 25 minutes of this race as Timmy Lay goes down the inside as well and will grab that spot in the BM.
Oh, you said full send from Shane Smolin at 1, and then it was a full send from Tim Lay at 6. Enjoying it, and I think you're right, Shane Smolin in that post-race interview yesterday, he was charged up at the end of that race, enjoyed every second of it, and he tried to fight back. Unfortunately, he now finds himself all the way back in 5th. So it's Gray from McLennan, Heyman, Lay, and Smolin your top 5, and then Jacob Lawrence, the first of the AM class cars, still sits in 6th place.
To the way the car was moving around, he was well into the ABS system that these cars run. They're adjustable with a little toggle on the dashboard. So you can wind the ABS interference up. The pro drivers often like to turn it, if not all the way off, some of the way off, so that it's a bit more mechanical braking. I just want to correct myself, Rusty. We're talking about the Jacob Lawrence car. I'm actually sure that JB is actually here this weekend.
Well,
confirm that for you.
Well,
he drove at Phillip Island.
Yeah, and it triggered my my thought, because I reckon I saw a post from JB during the week, and he was kind of disappointed because he's loving driving this car, but I don't think he's at the Bend this weekend. So JB, if you're watching, great to have you with us for the coverage here on 7+. But the Lawrence car that he knows all too well, currently in P6.
I've just actually had that confirmed. So he did pop up on the entry list and timing, but apparently JB's in Europe having a well-earned holiday. So definitely not at the bend.
Do you think he might be meeting with Toto Wolff at the moment, trying to get himself a drive?
Slide into that second Mercedes seat. He's a former Gold Star champion.
I was going to say, I wouldn't put it past him.
Absolutely.
He's a purist at heart, is JB.
He'd have a drive.
But that's enough about a driver that's in Europe. Let's get back to the racing. And right now, that's the 32 car of Jacob Lawrence we were talking about before. So he did finish 9th in the race yesterday.
Well, you can tell they're starting to get to pit stop time as well, because everyone's punching out fastest laps of the race. And there's the hooter, which means that the pit stop window is now officially open, so they can take their stops at whatever point from now they would like for the next 10 minutes. But Ryland Gray set the quickest lap. It was then beaten by Tom McLennan. It was then beaten by Tom Heyman, who has now set a new lap record for GT4 cars here on the West Circuit at a 1 minute 22.1. So the pace is ramping up as they start to build towards these pit stop windows.
I reckon the 26 might be in. It's dropping down the timing monitor. So providing that timing is accurate already, as soon as that window opened, Jason Yu, we think, has come in order to hand that car over to Josh Buchan. So let's keep a little bit of an eye on that. That'll give Josh in the order of 30 minutes of hard charging through this field, and let's see if they can recover from a current 11th place.
There may also be a safety car dance going on down at their garage as well, as we see the car we're talking about. So Yu has handed over to Josh, or about to hand over to Josh Buchan. We can see him just going about it leisurely, just like he did yesterday. No stress. What do they say? Less haste, more speed.
You've got to also say from the Miedeke Motorsport team. Now, he's coming in. Ryland's coming in. The point I was going to make there is they've got options. Ryland's so fast. McLennan comes in. Heyman stays out. So we're going to see a little bit of gamesmanship here now. Clear lane time is an advantage. But they could have run Ryland longer if they wanted to, given his pace yesterday.
Yeah, they could have, but if there was a safety car, it would have killed their race. So they've elected to get in early, knowing they've got two really strong drivers, and just avoid any risk. It's a low-risk pit stop for that team, because a safety car would absolutely destroy their day, and they need all the points they can get after yesterday's disqualification.
So the game over entry in there as well. Tony Quinn to hand over to young Jackson Rooney, who was a star in the Toyota 86 competition in New Zealand, has won a test with the 888 racing team this year as a part of his prize with the Tony Quinn Foundation. They're supporting some more young Kiwi racers, and nice to see him getting a chance in a GT4 car this weekend.
I was going to say that Nathan Morecambe will be jumping in because McLennan's gone to cover off the move. So we've got McLaren Method Motorsport being able to cover off the two different types of strategies, with Tom Heyman, whose teammate Marcus Flack, or co-driver with Marcus Flack, race winner for yesterday. They're going to run a bit longer in this one. That's the car we're talking about, whereas McLennan came in to hand over to Nathan Morecambe.
Yeah, so this car's stayed out a little bit longer, and Tommy is pressing on. Personal best sectors first and second for this car for the whole race. And if he continues the lap, it'll definitely be the quickest of the race, which he will do. So what he's trying to do is go opposite to his teammate and go for a little bit of an overcut, and does punch out a lap record. So he has got the longer pit stop time, an extra 15 seconds by account of winning yesterday. So he needs to make up the time on the racetrack, but he's going to lose it in pit lane when this car rolls into the Method Motorsport garage. So a couple of different strategies just starting to play out in this race.
An interesting one, though, is look who he's got in front of him that'll be getting up to the lap traffic, and that's Josh Buchan, who'll be running whole shot. So if he gets tucked in behind, you can understand that traffic will play less of a part, but it will be a factor as he tries to make up that 15-second gap.
Heyman can hustle. We've seen that in the De Princio Concreting Trans Am. Was a winner at Queensland Raceway. This is a very different bit of kit, though. Another name to keep an eye out for in the field. Sam Brabham, I think, has taken over the 17. So they're down in 13th place at the moment. They've dropped some spots, but he'll do the back end of this race. Let's see what Sam can do in the final half hour of competition. Tim Lay, solo entry in this car in the 22, and Richard's already talked about the little benefit they'll gain in terms of their pit stop in that car and what the benefit it might give them toward the end of this race.
Lawrence in the lane now, completing his compulsory stop. So just the 5 cars yet to peel off to pit lane.
Jeez, Heyman is just making light work of Josh Buchan at the moment down the main straight. Caught right up to him. Let's see if they duke it out through turn 1. Buchan holds to the outside, and Heyman through.
but they're not on the same lap, so there was no need for Buchan to fight that. Josh's race will play out a little bit later in the day.
How much overcut benefit is he going to get here, Tom Heyman? So
he's built a margin,
hasn't he? Yeah.
5.8 over Tim Lay, who's the next of the outright contenders yet to stop. And then this is the car that will be in the net race lead when everyone completes their compulsory stops, and he's a minute, well, 1.4 laps in front, Tom Heyman, to George Miedeke. That's the car race at this point in time. That's the battle. But Tim Lay, as long as he's within 15 seconds of Tom Heyman when they get to their stops, the BMW should jump this McLaren in the pit stop sequence as well, because he's got that shorter pit stop time.
And if you look at the gap to next at the moment, the gap between Miedeke and Morecambe right now, 15.3 seconds, and that was the pit stop advantage. Now, they would have taken the pit stop penalty, I guess you'd say, if they were able to maintain their result yesterday, but right now they're in a very strong position, George Miedeke and Rylan Gray.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it, that the disqualification yesterday has definitely helped the Mustang team. And it's a cruel sort of irony in the way this racing works, but it has actually helped them.
Yeah, I mean, the points deficit from being disqualified yesterday,
100%.
but the gain out of that in terms of negated penalty for today's race, definitely. So back we go. Lights ablaze for Miedeke in the Mustang. So sweet, that thing, isn't it? And just a point of difference to the McLaren, something incredibly different in look and shape. And George is not hanging around, as you can tell. Back we go to Tom Heyman. Nearing the end of this lap, how much longer does he hold out? 26.5 minutes remain in this Monochrome Australia GT4 race.
It's almost like this is a battle for second. He's really racing the other Method Motorsport entry of Nathan Morecambe and McLennan, because the bridge would be far too big to overcome, as nearly makes contact through turn 12 onto the main straight. As he continues on, Tom Heyman, fastest of all through the first and second sector.
Lay to the pit lane, lay to the pit lane.
Should be a new race lap record. No, he didn't go quicker in the end due to that little bit of a moment down at turn 12, but he does hold the new race lap record, Heyman, with a 1:21.9462.
Punch that margin out to more than 10 seconds. So from a damage limitation point of view, for that extra 15-second penalty he's carrying, when Marcus Flack will jump behind the wheel of this car, he is doing everything humanly possible to negate that on track. A safety car now will destroy that race. So now that Lay's in the lane, it wouldn't surprise me if Method Motorsport bring this car in next time by, aside from the fact they're rapidly running out of time to get that car in the lane. Miedeke's still on course to be the race leader when this all shuffles out. In fact, he's just unlapped himself from Tim Lay, sitting stationary in pit lane. The rejoin between this BMW and the Ford Mustang will be really interesting when GM gets the blue oval car back around to the start-finish line and pit exit. And you'll know pretty quickly if the BMW has got some advantage, because the merge here deposits you right onto the racing line.
Here we go.
They are.
Here we go.
Now is the time. The penalties for going longer than the pit stop window is open are, well, takes you out of the race. Lockie Manif, now he's behind the wheel of that Porsche that he shares with Shane Small, and he's flying. So there's some pace there too, looking to get some gain while the race leader peels into the lane, and Method Motorsport will go to work. That's got Chaz Mostert written all over it, doesn't it? Car controlling, shorts and a beanie.
Unmistakably him. Here comes Miedeke over the line now. So that is what Richard's highlighting relative to Lay. Is Lay about to be released? Sounds like it. There you go. Janetta makes its return to the circuit as well, and in the background there, look at the McLaren on approach here. So where does Lay fire out? Can he get out in time? But the McLaren will be up to temperature, better placed. Tim's got to move here.
And it's it's not like they change tyres on these cars, so you're not starting from a tyre that's at rock bottom pressure and temperature. There will be some heat still in those Pirellis on that BMW, but the Nathan Morecambe McLaren is absolutely flying, and this will be an interesting battle for what will turn out to be potentially second and third on the road. Heyman still shown as the leader and will be until Medicki comes around. That long pit stop time.
So the fastest lap time difference in race yesterday between Lay and Morecambe was about 0.7 of a second. The advantage going the way of the McLaren. The fastest lap yesterday was from Marcus Flack and Tom Heyman, and they were nearly a second quicker than Tim Lay in race trim. But the advantage will go the way of the McLaren, and if they can get up to speed, they do have a faster car.
New fastest lap of the race to Josh Buchan, and he continues to light up the timing monitor. He's just gone quickest in the first sector. Here's the rejoin.
So Medicki clear in front. The interesting one for me will be Tim Lay. Can he clear that pink and blue McLaren? And he is going to be getting to them at a full head of steam. There's a digital signage board that'll flash blue, and it's going to be really close when they get up here to turn one. And George is clear in front. Tim Lay gets it stopped, and that is second position now for the BMW. And after a brilliant stint, Tom Heyman handed the car over to Marcus Flack and has kept them in the race for a podium finish, despite having a pit stop 15 seconds longer than some of the key rivals around them.
So it was critically important for Marcus Flack to get through on Nathan Morecambe, and he used Tim Lay. He knew I couldn't pass Tim Lay, slotted straight back in, and he's going to have to hold off for at least half a lap from, well, I was going to say the fight's on, he's only just held on.
Can't afford to chuck time away here in this battle with Nathan Morecambe. Needs to get on with this, Marcus Flack. Set his sights on the back of that BMW. Just 20 minutes to go in the race. So George Medicki has crossed the line. 1 minute 22.8 for the Ford Mustang. Big moment for Tim Lay. Dropped the car off the road, it oversteered. It's going to cost him momentum onto the start-finish straight. He's got the Ginetta as lap traffic as well. And those two McLarens are pretty speedy. What can they do down here at one?
Lockie Manif in the background in the Porsche with the lights on as well. Having a look down the inside, Tim shuts the door. He's had plenty of years of experience, 50 years young, has raced in all sorts of different cars. Now we're hearing that the Rooney car, 101, the game over Mercedes, may have been hit with a penalty from race control. We'll verify that for you. A drive-through, we believe, coming for that car there, that Dayglow yellow and black machine. What has happened for Tony Quinn and Jackson Rooney? Now, is that in relation, as he closes in on the back of Josh Buchan here, is there's some sort of issue in relation to pit stops, perhaps, and they're paying the price of that now? Let's weave a little someone into the conversation here. It's the other half of the combination that is leading this race at the moment. So George Medicki leading with 20 minutes remaining. Young Ryland Gray is standing by for us in the pit lane. Ryland, welcome. How are the nerves? How's the car? And how was that first stint for you?
Yeah, it's been a pretty good first stint, to be honest. You know, I just sort of put my head down, didn't look in the mirror, and just sort of chipped away, and we ended up pulling away from the guys behind. So yeah, pretty happy with the car.
Ryland Krause, mate, a brilliant drive today. I know yesterday was probably very frustrating, but there's an irony in the fact that it's helped you guys today as we see Marcus Flack get down the inside of Tim Lay for second. So was it sort of refreshing in a way for you just to know that you could come in today's race and drive with a clear mind and just go as fast as you possibly could?
Yeah, it was a bit, you know, we got that success penalty take away from not getting on the podium, and yeah, so I just sort of put my head down and just obviously drove with a clear mind as well, and just, yeah, we handed it over to George with a pretty good lead, and hopefully he can bring it home.
Ryland, Cam Vandendugan here. It was a smooth sailing weekend for you at Phillip Island. It looked like a little bit harder work against the McLarens here at this beautiful West Circuit at the Bend. what advantage do you think your car had over them, and what do you think for the rest of this year? The battle, will it be only with McLaren, or are you seeing some other threats out there as well?
Yeah, I definitely think there's some other brands coming into the battle. You know, we were so good at Phillip Island, you know, high horsepower and such a good car as well. And yeah, we come to a track like the Bend where the McLarens and the Porsches are a bit more nimble, so they sort of shine on a track like this. But yeah, we've chipped away all weekend. You know, we've put our head down and just kept progressing each session. And yeah, we've had a pretty good weekend so far, so hopefully finish it off in a high.
Just while we've been chatting to you there, Nathan Morcom getting by Tim Lay up into third place, so McLaren's currently second and third. Hey, Ryland, before we let you go, just quickly, how much have you enjoyed this program, driving this car, and how much you're looking forward to the back end of this season more broadly? What's on the radar for you?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a pretty good season, to be honest. You know, getting to the back end of the championship, it's going to be pretty exciting. You know, we have more people coming into the championship fight, so yeah, looking forward to the rest of the season.
Good on you. Thanks for talking to us, and well done on being eyes forward today. Great stint from you in the first half of this race. There he is, Ryland Gray for the Lubramax Ford team in pit lane for us. Miedeke leads this one by 17 seconds. It's a close fight between the two Method Motorsport McLarens, Flack and Morcom. Lay is back in fourth place. The penalty hasn't been served yet by the looks of it for that Merc of Jackson Rooney, has it? Have they taken the penalty yet? We believe it is for a breach of pit stop procedure. So, Cam, you might just want to update us on that while we were talking to Ryland.
So they've had 2 pit stops, so I'd suggest, or at least he's come through the pit lane, but we should also say 36, which is Jake Camilleri, also drive-through penalty. Believe for another pit stop infringement. This is what happens when you have compulsory pit stops, and timing. Normally it's timing, or one of the team members might come out over the line when they're not supposed to.
Yeah, and that's a significant one too, because he's currently involved in a pretty big battle with Zoe Woods for 6th and 7th position, so that's going to cost him big time. And Jake actually hits the pit lane now for his mandatory drive-through penalty. So he's actually just peeled off out of this fight with the TechWorks IRC Porsche. But that's from 6th position, so that's quite costly for Jake. Really good performance yesterday in the Mercedes AMG. Costly today, and there'll be a championship point blow as a result. He's going to tumble well down outside the top 10 as a result of that.
Sorry, here's young Ryder Quinn up into position 7. Had a chat with him toward the end of the race yesterday. Has enjoyed battling his granddad, he calls him Popeye if you like, in Tony Quinn in this race. And Sam Brabham's been chipping away. We talked about that. He's now up into position 8 in car 17.
Yeah, good drive from those two, actually, creeping up the order. Ryder in particular up 10 spots in this race as Josh Buchan continues his march through, and in fact has just passed Sam Brabham for position. So that moves Josh in the McLaren up to 8th position now, and Ryder Quinn will be his next target. Josh has been pumping out some pretty impressive lap times since he jumped aboard this car from Zagami Motorsport. Based in Melbourne, the Zagami Group are one of the largest prestige car dealership groups in this part of the world. They do incredible work. Based in Melbourne, their motorsport program headed up by the very experienced Rod Wilson, who's been car controlling for this car all weekend long. Not confirmed that Josh will be in this car all the time. In fact, he missed the test day here a couple of weeks ago due to some other commitments, which I assume being him just being Josh Buchan and being a celebrity as a result of the reigning TCR Australia champion. So John Collins drove that car and then went and raced at Perth in a Radical, and I think John could be slated to drive this car a couple of times a little bit later on in the year when there's a few clashes with TCR events and other racing things for Josh to do.
So a quick check-in with each of our classes so far. The silver class, well, they're outright. We've got George Miedeke, Marcus Flack and Nathan Morcom on the podium so far. Lockie Manif currently leads for Pro-Am with Ryder Quinn and Josh Buchan sitting in 3rd at the moment. So that's a battle for podium. Jacob Lawrence, he's the leader in the Am class, back in 10th outright. And then we look back to Griffith in 2nd, and then Jamie Augustine back in 15th, but 3rd in the Am class.
This is good for Rooney, Rusty, because he's just clinging onto the back of George Miedeke, so a pretty good way to learn.
Salvage something after that penalty. If you can hang with George Miedeke for the remaining 14 minutes of this race, there'll be lots of learnings. First outing in a GT4 car for Jackson Rooney. Nice little positive. We go back to Flack versus Morcom. They've taken a second out of Miedeke, but it's not going to be enough at this rate with 13.5 minutes remaining. But it has been, on this layout, a good weekend for Method Motorsport in these McLarens, hasn't it? Need to keep an eye on Manif versus Lay as well. I think there's only about 4 seconds between those guys in the fight for 4th place.
I'm just looking at the round points as well at the moment. So it looks if it finished the way it does, Marcus Flack is taking home the maximum, well, not the maximum haul, but the most of any driver out there, with Nathan Morecambe second. And then the 25 points, George Miedeke is sharing that at the moment with Lockie Manif.
So it's really up to Manif as to where that plays out. On a countback, it'd go the way of the Mustang by finishing higher in the final race if they end up tied on points for the round result overall. They won't really care about that in the Ford Mustang camp, I don't think. It's all about winning this race and just getting back on top after the dramas yesterday. Ford performance globally, paying very close attention.
That was the interesting part with George when they talked about Ryland Gray and his career. They were saying we want to use him as a launch pad, and very quickly said overseas.
Yeah.
And it was what I loved hearing, because we talk so much about pathways within Australian motorsport, but they've made no bones about the fact that their progression for Ryland is not on Australian shores.
Well, the other thing, though, as well, is Ford have made no secret about the fact they want the Mustang GT3 in this part of the world, in Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia, and also the Bathurst 12-hour in early February next year, February the 2nd, Australia's International Enduro. If you're Ford and you bring some Mustangs down, I'm absolutely putting Ryland Gray in one of them. Local guy, fast, young, but already with quite a chunk of experience, and by then he will have raced the Super 2 car at Mount Panorama. He'd be the perfect person to stick in one of those cars. And the other thing I think is that, and I'd have to check with the FIA driver rankings, I think he's still silver ranked. So from a driver ranking point of view, which in GT3 racing is hugely important, he could be the little magic bullet to help them be very competitive.
It's like one of those high handicap mates playing golf with you on an Ambrose tournament, isn't it? You want them because you know they're going to give you that advantage.
I don't understand anything you've just said there, but I kind of get where you're going.
On 7 Sports, 7 Plus, we have all sorts of sports fans, and they knew exactly what I was talking about. They're often referred to as bandits, Krause.
Bandits.
They're worth their weight in gold.
So, boys, just you raised the Lockie Manif scenario before. Look at that. He is now within tenths of seconds of Tim Lay in that fight for 4th place. Only 7 tenths between them at the moment. Need to keep a little eye on that. It's down to 14 seconds, Miedeke to Flack, but we've got 10 to go. George can maintain that. We know he can just massage, look after that buffer, if you will. Here we go. And you could see before the way that Lockie was attacking the final corner in that Porsche, the urgency, the willingness. And he's close now to Tim Lay. Can Tim hold on here to 4th place?
Well, that's for the round result. He'll move into 3rd if he gets that position.
Switch of camp, if you like, or of categories, I should say, for Manif. He was running a privately entered Audi in the Super Cheap Auto TCR series in recent years. That car, I think, is up for sale. And he's been picked up here by Shane Smolin, who, as Rich detailed, has committed to the GT4 pathway in recent years, is absolutely rock solid in this style of competition. And we've seen the success he's had at events like the Bathurst 6 Hour and so on. So it's a nice drive that Lockie's been able to pick up here. Has a look down the inside of Lay at the end of the main straight, and he'll get that position up into 3 now. Into position 4, I should say, for this race.
There's a good fight on for 2nd and 3rd, and now this for 4th and 5th. And how is the car moving around under brakes there? Just everything engaged on the stoppers to get the little Cayman stopped in that big approach to turn 1 from 250 kilometres an hour. Here are the 2 McLarens continuing to have their own private little battle. By the way, while this has been going on, Josh Buchan has passed Ryder Quinn. That's just happened. He's got up to 6th position now to continue his march through the field in the McLaren. Here they are. So another of the BMWs and another McLaren going at it.
How about the moves they've chalked up during the race? The pair of them, 10 spots. They're both up 10 spots in this race.
The challenge is the gap to next for Josh Buchan. It's over 20 seconds, so he's got a fair bit of work to get through if he's going to move any further up the order.
He'll be hoping for a late and very, very brief safety car. So that one of those one-lap safety cars you get every now and then to try and claw back some free time. It's interesting, Marcus Flack's taken 2 seconds out of the race leader in the last 4 laps. So about a half a second a lap quicker at the moment than George Miedeke, but he's got 13 seconds up his sleeve, George, so he's just stroking this home. There'll be performance to burn in the Mustang if he needs it, but it would take something remarkable to get into an arm wrestle this late in the race. And George is experienced enough to know how to bring it home. He's had a great career, George Miedeke, still not old by any extent, but what he's achieved over the journey, some time racing short track NASCAR in the United States, little stint in Touring Car Masters, production cars with a Ford Mustang at Mount Panorama. Driven just about everything. He was in Super 2 Series for some time and was competitive there too. Now focused in his full-time job as dealer principal of the Miedeke Motor Group in Port Macquarie on the coast in New South Wales. Very successful at that, but still loves the racing. And he and his great dad Andrew, fortune, always a good chat with Andrew when you catch up with him in the paddock, and had a long yarn with him on Friday about this Ford program and how much they're enjoying running this car and developing it. I think secretly too they love being the only Mustang in the field at the moment. There will be more Fords, I've got no doubt, but right now they're really enjoying waving the flag for the Blue Oval in GT4.
Hearing that Porsche, which triggered a safety car earlier in this race, is back in the paddock, and there's some decent damage to the left front of that car. So 7 minutes remain in this race now. It's down to 12.9 seconds, but
tell you what, Rusty, Lockie Manif is flying in the Porsche. There's a big margin to Nathan Morecambe. But if anything happens with these two McLarens dueling as they are, car number 1 will cruise up to them, and he's going on with it too. We touched yesterday, if you were with us, with our broadcast of Monochrome GT4, and indeed GT3, because it's relevant across the board. This Pirelli control tyre is truly remarkable in how it continues to produce lap times over a long race distance. It's a very durable tyre, and it's geared and developed towards an AM driver, someone who doesn't race professionally. So Pirelli build their tyres with a view of someone who's less experienced, having a tyre that's super consistent over a race distance. And the fact that Lockie Manif is very close to setting the fastest lap of the race on lap, where are we, 30, with 6 minutes to go and an hour's worth of racing, is testament to that product that they run in this car and in this category.
To your point, there he is, back of shot, just coming out of the final corner, was quickest through the first sector.
It's a PB lap for that car for the race on lap 31.
They're a very user-friendly machine. There's quite a step between a GT4 and a GT3 spec car. It's a great way to get into the whole GT racing ladder or program. SRO, the body, which is basically was started in the late 90s under the guidance of Stefan Rattel, who was with us at Phillip Island. It is a system, if you like, Rich, isn't it, where we take these cars, these highly desired cars that you'll see in showrooms all around the country, and they, in GT4 terms, are basically a minimal step up on the road spec version, aren't they? Very user-friendly. That was the word I used a moment ago. Nice way to step into a racing program if you are relatively new to it.
And designed to be that pathway into GT3 cars. So you can drive a GT4 car. For instance, lap times this weekend, GT4 cars are doing about 1 minute 22. The lap records are 21.7. Quickest lap in the GT3 race yesterday was a 15.0, so it's 7 seconds a lap on a stop-go circuit. That extends further when you get to a fast, high-performance racetrack. Everyone knows lap times at Mount Panorama, right? So a GT3 car there, in qualifying trims of 2:01, a GT4 car there, as quick as they'll go, somewhere in the 12s. So the margin extends the quicker the racetrack, but these are still seriously fast racing cars. Straight line speed as well, approaching 245 k's an hour before the braking point at turn 1 at the end of the long front straight here at the bend. This little inter-team battle continues. there'll be some satisfaction in the Ford camp if they can bring this one home, because as we've seen when teams get stripped of a race win, you kind of have to do the little walk of shame with your trophy, don't you? And they did that yesterday. They did the right thing. They marched it down to Method Motorsport. They handed over the second and third place trophies. They did the right thing, which was a good sporting gesture, but they would love to get it and keep it today.
3 minutes 30 left in this race. We just want to focus on this battle here at the moment. So it's down to 10 seconds. George Miedeke versus Flack. Let's get a really quick update from Sarah in the pit lane.
Yeah, guys, we're just down here with car 12. Earlier on, it lost a wheel on the front left-hand side, and as you can see on screen now, it is really, really completely destroyed, that front left-hand side of the car.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. So, most importantly, Vince is okay. That's the great news. So, I'll repair that car. Miedeke. What's Manif been able to do there? Another pretty solid lap from Lockie Manif last time by. It's down to 19 seconds, but we'll run out of time, I think, in that fight for third.
If this was an hour and 15-minute race, he'd probably get to the back of them, but he's going to run out of time. A bit of traffic here for the two McLarens who have been duelling on. I'm sure Chazzy Mostert's been on the radio to Marcus Flack and Nathan Morecambe, just saying, hey boys, second and third, let's make sure we bring this home. Team game, score championship points. Series heads to Queensland Raceway in August from here. So there's a little bit of a break, time to refresh before the next round of Monochrome GT4 with the Shannon's Speed Series. They then head down to the Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit at the end of August for the GT Festival. And the category will continue to build. Chatting to the guys at Ford, there's plans to bring more of those cars in. We touched earlier on the fact that there'll be some more Porsches coming into the country as well. The way the McLarens have been going, I'm surprised their order book isn't larger as well, because they've been particularly effective, especially this weekend. You get the feeling Queensland Raceway could be a bit of a McLaren track. I mean, turn 1 and 2 there, high-speed commitment corners will suit the grunt of the Mustang, but mid-engine car, really well balanced for all those long loaded corners at that joint too.
It is a good point. I've actually seen a few categories where they have high and low horsepower. It's a bit of a each way bet. It almost comes down to the driver on the day that's just dialed in for the car.
Minutes ago in this one.
One thing's for certain, they wouldn't want to take the McLaren to Sandown against the Mustang, would they?
No, that's probably not a favourite track for these cars. So they're glad it didn't start at the opening round of the Speed Series this year, back in late January it was. Feels like a long time ago now. Should mention as well, watching on from the sidelines, Mark Cottrell, who was in the Ginetta that had dramas on Friday and they didn't make the start. There was a spare parts issue for that. A lot of people worked to try and get them on board, but he's Mark Cottrell, master jeweller, and he's actually prepared the championship ring that the winner's going to get this year. So unfortunately, not on the racetrack, but still watching on and a keen spectator and involved in this series to a special little award for the champion at the end of the series. They're going to have earned it too, because it's fiercely competitive. A couple of laps to go in this, clock winding down to 0, and Nathan Morecambe continues to look racy, trying to find a way past Marcus Flack. This is the fight for second and third. Manif now 9 seconds behind them and actually just dropped off a little bit in the last lap. So it's a fight between the two McLaren art jewelers. Josh Buchan continues to run in 6th position and taking time out of everybody, but running out of time in the race to do so. Ryder Quinn going with Josh and has stayed within a second of that McLaren. Sam Brabham up to 8th in the first of the Mercedes AMG GT4s in the race. Antonio Astudi up to 9th in one of the Love Motorsport cars, and Jacob Lawrence, we touched on earlier, running solo this weekend. I'm sure JB's watching on from his European vacation. Is up to 10th place in the number 32 car and 4th of, actually leading the AM class. So there's still potentially a trophy coming the way of with Jacob at the end of this one in the race, within a race in Monochrome GT4.
Great to see Nathan Morecambe back behind the wheel of a race car too. He was with us with the HMO customer racing operation, obviously through family there, when TCR really kicked off in this country, and he has kept the pressure on Flack for the second half of this race, virtually the whole way, hasn't he? There's 4 tenths between them and their teammates. So the message, I guess, from Chaz and from Method Motorsport will be just to, you know, let's make sure we finish the weekend strong for the McLarens. But he's lost no speed, has he? Nathan Morecambe, great return to racing. Nice to have him a part of GT4.
10 seconds still the margin, George Miedeke. This has been a beautifully measured drive. Both Ryland Gray, who set this up early, they stopped early knowing they had 2 drivers who could do the business here this weekend. And this has been beautifully done by the Ford team, Miedeke Motorsport, Lubramax Racing, and the Ford Mustang. Disappointment yesterday, what a rebound today.
They woke up on Sunday morning, they put their hand up, they owned the dramas of Saturday, and they've returned to the winner's circle on Sunday in that Ford Mustang. Great work set up by Ryland Gray, brought home by George Miedeke. It's a 2nd and 3rd for the 2 McLarens. It's been a good outing at the Bend Motorsport Park for Chaz Mostert and the Method Motorsport crew. And good hustle from Lockie Beneath in that Porsche. Finishes this race in 4th with Shane Smolin. Good job.
Yeah, and great job to them. 3rd for the round with 27 points. That pass on Tim Leahy was so important throughout. And it was damage limitation. Couldn't have done it any better. In the Ford Mustang, George Miedeke and Ryland Gray.
Wow, what a comeback story that is for the Miedeke Motor Group Lubramax Mustang. 3rd victory in 4 races this year, but they had some adversity to get to that point. The Method Motorsport cars 2nd, 3rd and 4th. What a team performance, the 2 McLarens in front of the Porsche. Tim Leahy drove really well. Changed classes for this weekend to have a shot at outright honours and contended today. Buchan and Yu in 6th position. Quinn and Jackick 7th in the Bimmer. Brabham and Love next in front of the 2nd Love car with Antonio Astudi. Lawrence winning the AM class. Pro-Am, by the way, went to Shane Smolin and Lockie Beneath. Zoe Woods has had a really strong weekend for TechWorks in the silver class Porsche and finished 11th. Jake Camilleri had that drive-through penalty, unfortunately, and dropped down the order, Greg Russ. But what a good show it's been for Monochrome GT4.
Some highlights for you. Race 2 of the weekend. Good field, solid field, good races, good cars. Off they set in some Sunday morning sunshine. But we had a safety car relatively early, unfortunately. Some decent damage. Hopefully that Porsche will be able to be repaired for the next round of the championship. Shane Smolin absolutely centred at turn 1, but he was under siege from the McLarens. Up in front, Ryland Gray was doing the job. The pit stops began. He handed over to George Miedeke. And then this, they all ended up in close company. Tim Leahy and the 2 McLarens. There was a drive-through penalty, unfortunately, for Jackson Rooney in the car that he shares with Tony Quinn. A pit stop infringement. Beneath was rattling off some very good laps on the run home. So too was Josh Buchan. He got the quickest lap of the race. They were disqualified for being just 2 kilos underweight on Saturday, but they're back winners on Sunday. George Miedeke and Ryland Gray in the Mustang. About to take you to Shannon's Victory Lane, and we'll celebrate as we do with Monochrome Australia GT4 with our class winners as well. There's George, who was terrific with us at the beginning of the coverage today. Not afraid to step up. It's actually a good lesson for some of the young racers, Cam, and how to handle those difficult moments, those difficult situations. True
to form, George Miedeke. He'll be very happy. Andy will be somewhere in the background as well. It'll be great to hear from him. And I echo your sentiments on it. That's exactly how you handle it. At 2 kilo, you know he would have been frustrated by it, but he took it, wore it, and let's hear from him now with Sarah Burt.
George Miedeke, winner of our silver class. We spoke to you earlier. Yesterday was a bit disappointing. Last night you had the information that you guys were disqualified, but you've come out firing today and absolutely redeemed yourselves. How does it feel?
Yeah, we'd want to with a 15-second faster pit stop, but no, it feels good. You know, we had a really good race there. Ryland got a fantastic start and led that first stint, and then for me it was there to conserve, you know, to the end. So car felt good. We're very happy with our Lubramax Miedeke Motorsport Mustang, and yeah, bring on Queensland Raceway.
I know we the guys asked you from the studio this morning a little bit about Rylan, but it's obviously fantastic you guys work together so well as a team. He had such a fantastic start. What did you need to do to maintain that?
Really, it was just about conserving the car in case we had a safety car again. You know, we really wanted to have something to fight with if that were the case. But yeah, as you say, Rylan's doing a great job, and we both have very similar feedback. It's excellent. You know, what he thinks is up with the car, I think the same, and that's great. So couldn't ask for a better teammate.
Well, you're doing a very good job too. Thanks, George. Well done. We will head over to our winner of the Pro-Am. Hey guys, who wants to chat today? All of us. Well, congratulations. Great race as well. We spoke to you guys yesterday. What was the main takeaways heading into, I mean, as we said, you did well yesterday and you've come out again today. Did you have to change anything up?
Oh, look, we just went out there. We got a good start. We tucked into second place. We shouldn't have been there, but you only live once, so it was great to be racing the young pros and hand it over to Lockie, and he had some great time to the end. We had no radio the entire race, so we've had a little gremlins. But, so Lockie jumped out just then and said, did we win? Did we win?
We won. Awesome.
You did. And I like that approach. You said you just went with the YOLO and you just did what you could, and I love that. Lockie, how was it without having the radio? Was it a bit off-putting, or did you just YOLO'd as well and went for it?
I didn't know where we were because pretty much as soon as I rolled into the track, they pointed me either to out in the paddock or the podium. So awesome to be here, and God, credit to this guy to be fourth at the start and go straight to second is pretty incredible, and obviously set up a great race for us. So I got in, the car was great, set some, I was as quick as I could, and again, didn't really know where we were, but here we are.
You did a great job. Thank you very much, Lockie Manif, the winner of our Pro-Am class. We will now head over to the winner of our, hello, we've got a little friend here, hello. The winner of our Am class, we spoke to you as well yesterday. What a fantastic weekend you've had.
Yeah, can't say it was without its troubles, but great weekend. Great result going 2 for 2, so I'm very happy with that. Felt better in that one, so I think my fitness is getting better, so that's a win. Not as fatigued as last time, but yeah, stoked to have that result.
Yesterday was your first 1 hour race, and when you got out of the car, I remember you saying you needed to calm down a bit, and you said your hands were pretty stiff. Were you absolutely spent last night?
Yeah, I was buggered. I was having dinner upstairs and passing out, but then I went to bed and I was wired again, stressing about today. So I'm glad it's done. George Medecki gave me a good tip, just breathe down the straight, rest your hands. So I was trying that, and that definitely helped. So thanks for that, mate.
Breathe a sigh of relief now. That was fantastic. Did you enjoy watching the race? What's your name?
Jude.
Jude, did you enjoy watching the race? Was that fun? Do you want to say hi to the camera?
Hi.
Well done, Jude. Well done. Lovely stuff.
Hi, Mum. Hi, Jude's mum.
Congratulations to Jacob Lawrence there too. No doubt John Bow watching on from overseas. He'll be chuffed as well. We need a commercial break here in our coverage from the Ben Motorsport Park. Coming your way after the break, Porsche Michelin Sprint Challenge. More than 30 of them set to do battle here in South Australia.